You're losing thousands of dollars of profit by not refinancing your properties the right way. And investors are losing money because they don't know if they should do a HELOC, a cash out refinance, a bridge loan, or even how to set up the loans properly. Lucky for you, I'm a licensed mortgage expert. And in this video, I'm gonna cover 4 powerful refinancing strategies that will help you unlock more equity, improve cash flow, and grow your portfolio. And stick around until the end for a bonus tip on 2 mistakes that investors make all the time that I see, and they don't even know that they're making these mistakes. All right, so as a licensed loan officer, I can tell you that there are 3 main reasons that anyone's gonna refinance ever. That's gonna be to either shorten the term, lower the mortgage rate, or take cash out. That's it. But how do guys go from owning 1 to 2 properties to scaling to like 50 to 100 plus units in less than a decade? Like, what's the secret? What's the magic power that's allowing them to constantly never run out of capital? And that's because of the first strategy I'm gonna talk about, which is cash out refinancing. So let me share a story that really brings this to life. I'm gonna change my past client's name for privacy, but let's call him Alex. So Alex wanted to buy his first investment property, but the problem was he didn't have a lot of cash on him, right? So he was doing a lot of research. Him and I agreed that he should buy houses that needed work to do forced appreciation to increase the equity to be able to take cash out again. That's the Burr method. And the problem is he didn't have the 20% down payment, because when you're buying an investment property, you need to put 20% down. And so he was like, okay, what options do I have? I said, well, you need a lump sum of money to be able to use right away. And that's going to be where a cash out refinance comes in, because the way refinancing works is they give you cash tax-free out of your equity. It's obviously a new loan where it pays off the first mortgage and it just does a whole new mortgage altogether. And that's the cash that you can use tax-free for whatever projects that you have. So we agreed, hey, let's just use this cash out refi. We're going to take the money and be able to buy the first investment property. The problem was we needed to qualify for the cash out refinance because it's a new loan. And Alex didn't have the best credit and his DTI was high because his girlfriend at the time made him pay for a tummy tuck and then she left him. I cannot make this stuff up. She literally was like, I really want this. And he was like, fine, I'll pay for it. He pays for it. And then months later, she left. And so now he's stuck with all these bills, this high interest credit card debt that he now needs to pay off. So how we organized it was we had the cash out refinance pay a lot of his credit card debt off, which opened up his DTI and raised his credit score, of course, after, but paid off his debt and it gave him a lump sum of cash as well. So what happened was he increased his monthly cash flow because of his monthly debt, and he has some money now as a cushion to be able to use not only for emergencies, but also to buy his first investment property. Luckily, the property was in a rural area. So with 150 sales price, it wasn't that much for 20% down plus reserves. And the way cash out refinances work is they let you borrow up to 80% loan to value. So in Alex's case, his home value was worth $550,000 and he owed $300,000. So after closing costs, he was netting $130,000, right? So the max mortgage is 80%. Take that minus your current mortgage, minus closing costs, which is usually around 8 to 10 grand, really depends on your area. Could be less, could be more. And then that netted difference is the cash to him that he has left over. So a portion of that 130K went to debts, and then the other went to his first investment property. So now thanks to that cash out refinance, Alex has way better cash flow. He's back on his feet and he's able to buy his first investment property to fix it up and rent it out, take cash out, and then go buy the next property. There's 2 things that happens when you do a mortgage refinance. Keep this in mind. The first thing is that you skip 1 to 2 months of your mortgage payment if you currently have a mortgage, right? So you get that money back, you keep it in your pocket because you don't have to make that payment. And then the second thing is on your mortgage statement, you'll see an escrow balance. That number is going to be a check back to you, a refund, after the refinance is complete. So you'll get that escrow refund back, whether it's $1,000, $5,000, $6,000, whatever the amount is. They'll send it back to you because we have to set up a new escrow. That's what majority of the closing costs really is just taxes, insurance, and prepays. So some actionable tips before I get into the next strategy is talk to your lender and realtor to assess the current value of your home. Make sure that there's some value there. And then the second thing is figure out with the lender the numbers that they're going to make sense, and you'll have some ROI when you're buying the next investment property. In this case, he's putting 20% down. He was getting a really solid rate, and with his forced appreciation, he knew that he was going to get cash out and be able to have a tenant that's just paying the mortgage. So really, he wasn't losing in any way. Hey, if you're finding value so far, a lot of people that are watching this aren't subscribed. If you could do me a favor and subscribe to the channel to get more value like this and be the first to know about any mortgage programs or creative financing you can use to really scale your portfolio and achieve financial freedom. Let's get back into the video. Now, cash out refinancing can be a game changer, but what if you need something more flexible? Let's talk about HELOCs next, which reminds me of a story that perfectly illustrates this idea of using HELOCs, home equity line of credit, which is the second powerful strategy that we have. So John is a past client of mine that's owned his property for quite a while, and he just refinanced during COVID because rates were in the 2 to 3% for mortgages. So when he refinanced, he had like a 3% rate. He didn't want to lose his interest rate, but really wanted to tap into his equity. So like, what do you do then, right? You don't want to refinance and lose your first mortgage, but you really need something flexible. And so the home equity line of credit is a second lien that basically just attaches on, and you're allowed to keep your first mortgage while also taking cash out of your equity. This works for primary homes and investment properties. He did this because he wanted to have the funds available to go buy the next project and pay off some debt like many other people, but then also not touch the first mortgage. What's nice is HELOCs acts like a credit card on your house. So it's like a line of credit that you can just pay off and use, pay off and use. Keep in mind that HELOCs usually have a fixed period in the beginning that is only for drawing and then a repayment phase, right? So there's different phases of the HELOC. You can talk to me or someone else if you have any more questions about how that works. But keep in mind that for a HELOC on a primary home, the minimum credit score is 620. And for an investment property, the minimum credit score is 680. Now, most of the time, HELOCs, John knew he can't use for his multifamily buildings. So he used it on his investment property that was a single family home. He had a minimum 690, 700 credit score. So he was able to pull out this HELOC and use it to pay off some debt and buy the next project. So with this HELOC, John was opening up his cash flow by over $1,000 a month, and then he used this to go buy the next investment property. He didn't want to put some work into it. He just wanted something that was move-in ready because for the sake of time. So in this case, he took out a lot of cash because he had a lot of equity built up over time. And just a side note, if you're like, hey, Ben, I don't have a lot of properties. I don't have all this equity. I can't borrow money. What you would have to do is either save money, get a job that pays well, or you would have to just raise money with other investors. These are the two most common strategies people use if they don't already have equity or assets to tap into to go buy their next asset. And HELOCs are flexible, but what if you just want to lower your monthly mortgage payment and save money to open up your cash flow? What does that even look like, and how do people actually do this without losing money? The third strategy is a rate and term refinance, and I'm going to explore in this next story on how that actually works. I'll never forget Ryan, who was another young investor, client of mine, who wanted to really scale his portfolio, and the rate that he got when he bought the house was a little bit too high compared to where the market was currently. And so what he did was he figured out, look, I'm paying a higher rate on my investment properties, eating to my profits. So we looked and we did a free refinance analysis. By the way, if you want these, it's super quick and easy. I can quickly tell you how much you can save. But we decided to do a refinance analysis and a mortgage efficiency checkup on his loan to get a better term. So let's say in Ryan's case, I changed a lot of the data points just so for privacy's sake, but in his case, he had a 30-year fixed mortgage at a 7.625 interest rate. Right now, I'm not going to go through all the details, but his new mortgage was 6.49 on a 30-year fixed mortgage. Now, usually what I like to do is do a 20-year or 25-year mortgage to continue your amortization schedule. Meaning, if you've already been in the house for 5 or 6 or 10 years, let's do a loan like a 20-year or 25-year mortgage to make sure you haven't lost all the progress that you've already did. In his case, though, he wanted the lower mortgage payment. He's like, I don't care. I'll pay the interest that a lot of it is accrued in the first 5 years. And he was like, I'd rather just take the lower mortgage payment. So just know that mortgage lenders charge most of their interest in the first 5 years. That's why most of your payments isn't really going to principal. But then after that 5-year mark, the principal amount will slowly increase and you'll start building equity faster. But he was like, hey, just give me the lower rate. So we got him 6.49, and that was saving him roughly $400 a month. So that's a really, really good savings because obviously he had a higher rate compared to where rates were at and because of his loan balance. Our closing cost total was around $9,000 because of his taxes and insurance. And then he knew that he's getting an escrow refund of $3,000. Plus he was skipping his mortgage payment of like $3-4 grand. So that kind of made up for majority of the closing costs. But just know that for closing costs, it's something that has to be paid for. There's no way around it because the new refinance, the new mortgage is going to set up a new escrow and a new fund for the taxes and for the insurance. Usually you don't have to escrow, but most people do. So just keep that in mind that if you want to keep your closing costs low, you can just pay the insurance and taxes yourself. You don't have to escrow. But side note, lenders like it when you're escrowing because they'll give you a slightly better rate because they're more confident that you're not going to miss your taxes and your insurance. So because of that, Ryan was saving $400 a month. He was able to cash flow a little bit better with his tenant, and that put him in a really good position to have more money coming in. While rate and term refinancing is great for making your loans a little bit more efficient, what if you're in a hurry and you need funding quickly? That's where bridge loans come in. And I'll share a story of a client of mine that really needed a bridge loan and how it works. So I'll highlight my client named Tom, and he found a really good fixer-upper deal in Chicago, but needed fast cash to make it happen, right? So he was at risk of losing the deal to someone who can act quicker. And so what he did was he had a 4-unit property, and a 4-unit investment property gets tricky because you can't really take HELOCs, and the cash out refinances can get pretty expensive. And he didn't have a lot of paperwork and income docs, so we had to get something more creative. And that's where bridge loans really shine. So bridge loans allow you to borrow up to 60, 70, 80% of the home's value, and they could be a second mortgage, so they don't touch the first one, similar to a HELOC. But the difference is that it's a fixed lump sum, and that's what he wanted. He's like, hey, I just want my $150,000 taken out. I know I'm going to use it, and then I'll pay it off doing the BRRRR method once I buy this fixer-upper. What I set him up with was a no-income second mortgage on his property. It didn't touch his first mortgage. He had a 4% on the multifamily property, and then it got on the lump sum that he needed. Now, these no-income second mortgages work like this. They just use the rental income of the property, and that's pretty much it. So they'll look at your credit, but then they'll verify, hey, are there lease agreements? Are they long-term rents? And is it at least stabilized? If the property is stabilized, then they'll give you a second mortgage, specifically this creative bridge loan that we used. If you have any more questions on that, just comment below on like how that all works and I can help you. But the outcome was in 2 weeks, Tom was able to take cash out of his 4-unit property, use that cash to buy his investment property, then fix it up, take cash out again, right? You're noticing a pattern here. A lot of these investors know that they want to buy properties that have or need potential for work because that's where the equity spread comes in, and then they can use the equity to go buy the next building. But long story short, didn't have the cash, he needed it. We got him a second mortgage lump sum. It was a creative loan and it worked really well for him. A lot of these loan programs for the bridge loans, they close in 7 to 10 days. They're really ideal for when timing is critical, and it helps secure properties where permanent financing might not be so viable. Now that we've covered the essentials, I'm going to give you 2 bonus tips that a lot of investors make when refinancing that they don't even know that they're making. So the first thing is over leveraging your assets. I see this happen in 2 ways. The first is an investor will get excited because he's got some equity and he wants to take cash out to go pay off his high interest debt, which is fine. A lot of people do it. I hope people do it all the time. The problem is when you pay off that high interest debt, don't get into more high interest debt. Like, don't go borrow more on your credit cards, because then now you have a high credit card payment and you have a higher mortgage payment because you're borrowing. Yes, you're taking money out to go pay off the debt, but your mortgage payment usually goes up because you're adding to the loan balance. So that's the first mistake, is they'll just get into more credit card debt. The second mistake is that people get excited when rates drop and they keep refinancing. So I'll see guys that refinance like every 6 to 12 months. And honestly, after closing costs, because you have to set up new insurance, prepaid escrow and things like that, it gets pretty pricey. Now, you don't always have to escrow, and that's fine. If you don't, like, sometimes it makes sense. But if the savings isn't enough, if there's not a break-even point, it doesn't make sense to keep refinancing. And I'm telling you, a lot of lenders and people will solicit you and tell you, hey, time to refinance, time to refinance. At the end of the day, you have to do a quick refinance analysis, crunch the numbers, and really see, like, is this worth it? But how can you make sure that you don't fall into this endless trap of just refinancing over and over again? One way is to do a good analysis and make sure that your break-even point is there. So how can you solve this? Well, you talk to a lender like me to get a breakdown to see if the refinance actually makes sense. Now, a couple reasons why people refinance, like I said in the beginning, if you want to lower your mortgage rate, you're doing that because you want to lower your mortgage payment, right? So that savings, if it breaks even quick enough, I would say that it's worth it. Usually if you see a break-even point between 1 to 3 years, I think a refinance is usually worth it. You don't have to refinance every, year or 2 years, right? For that reason, if you're looking to just lower your mortgage payment. Now, if you're looking to take cash out, that's different. Some guys will like, hey, I don't care if my closing costs are 20 grand. If they're gonna buy a fixer-upper that's gonna net them 40, 50, 60K that they're gonna sell, or that they know they're gonna cash flow $1,500 or $1,000 or $500 a month, that money will make back the money that you got in the closing costs. One thing to note too, I get a lot of people ask me about, closing costs are rolled into the loans. You're not paying cash for them. They're just rolled into the mortgage. It's still something you have to pay for, but not out of pocket, right? So depending on your strategy, that's where I'll start. So if you're looking to lower your mortgage payment, then I'll look at the break even. If you're looking to take cash out to buy a property, then really the break even doesn't matter on the closing cost per se. We look at what is the results or the outcome that you're looking for the cash out refinance. By exploring some of these strategies like cash out refinancing and HELOCs. I hope this helped you get one step closer to scaling your portfolio and opening up your cash flow so that way you're put in a better position financially. So if you're ready to take the next step, click the link below in the description to book a consultation. We can do a quick overview of what makes sense and what refinance options will be strategically beneficial for you. It's going to be no pressure. I'm not going to sell you anything. Really, I'm just going to look at what can we do to help you get the best results to achieve that dream outcome. Hey, and if you're just starting out your investment journey and you want to find out what are the best mortgage programs for investors, I made a video about that here. You can check it out to learn more about what to do from A to Z on how to start building your portfolio and scale to be able to achieve financial freedom. My name's Ben, and I hope you found value from this. Thank you.